Right, welcome to the fashion retail industry for the year 2024 and probably 2025 as well. Let's just familiarize ourselves with what the fashion retail industry is all about because we've just come from the retail grocery industry and we now need to move over to fashion. So it's been a good exercise for me as well, just to kind of understand who is who in the zoo. So just some fashion retail trends. Major retailers have committed to increasing locally made clothing ranges in their stores from around 50% currently to 65% by 2030. So that's obviously quite a big trend within the stores to have local made clothing and not buy from China. Consumer spending remains constrained due to interest rates, load shedding, inflation, unemployment, all of those economic issues. Smuggling of illegal consignments of clothing into South Africa, much of which is counterfeit or knockoffs of other brands, is still an ongoing issue in fashion retail. So, in 2022, the top 5 online stores in the South African fashion market are Superbalist, Takealot, Shein, Truworths, and Woolworths. So that is from an online point of view. If you have a look there, Superbalist, USA dollars is 158.3 million. And yeah, there's a 60% share. I'm not too sure what that means actually. But look at the growth, 12.8% growth. You've got Shein has grown to 92.1%. Absolutely phenomenal. So it says here in 2022, the top 5 online stores in the global e-commerce market. And I just wanted to show you where Shein is. It's Amazon first, then JD.com, Apple, Walmart, and then Shein is right there in the top 5. So it's absolutely incredible what that company has done and how they have just made it possible. The top 5 fashion retail stores in South Africa, as we've said, Shein, Superbalist. There's also Mr. Price, Truworths, and Cotton On. So that's some South African stats. If you have a look there, Mr. Price Group, $199 billion. Rex Trueform Group, which has Queen's Park and a whole lot of other brands. Then it's got Truworths International. And then African and overseas enterprises, they are also part of Rex Trueform Group. Top 10 fashion brands from a fashion point of view, from consumers' point of view. Woolworths, number 1. Takealot, then Mr. Price. Sportscene. 5 is Truworths. 6 is Total Sports. 7 is Markham. 8 is Ackerman. 9 is Foschini. And 10 is Edgar's. And we're going to do a little bit of a synopsis on Edgar's in this section that we're covering today. Right, I've just found some nice slides on the internet. Who recommends Woolworths when it comes to clothes and footwear? 29% are 45-year-olds and above. 18% are white. 23% earn between 20 and 39,999 Rand per month. 79% of these consumers like to try new brands. 66% often notice advertisements at airports. They are currently buying clothes at Mr. Price, Woolworths, and Edgar's. And 79% like a company with a moral message. Let's have a look here. Who recommends Takealot? 53% are male. 15% are living in the Western Cape. 74% subscribe to loyalty programs. 90% like owning good quality products. They are currently buying clothes at Pep, Woolworths, Mr. Price. And 42% often notice advertisements on the internet. Let's have a look at Mr. Price. 27% are aged up to 24 years old. 14% are students. 82% don't receive government benefits. 75% like to get advice when buying things. 36% don't spend a lot on clothes. They are currently buying at Pep, Woolworths, and Ackermans. 73% often talk to my friends and or family about things I've seen advertised on billboards. So that's just a little advertising synopsis of those 3 brands. Pepkor Holdings Limited, they have in their group as Pepkor, they've got Pep, Ackermans, Pep Africa, Shoe City. I'm just trying to think there any other clothing brands, Refinery. So, clothing and general merchandise, they have 37,100 employees. In their clothing and general merchandise stores, they have 4,809 stores, and their clothing accounts for 66% of total Pepkor revenue. And then you can see they've got furniture, appliances and electronics, building materials, and then fintech. Okay. Ackermans is facing intensifying competition from Shoprite Holdings, Africa's largest grocer, which recently opened specialist clothing and baby stores. Categories in which Pepkor's flagships, Pep and Ackerman outlets, are active. So Ackermans is facing some tough competition. I've just put some brands there, Legit, Pick and Pay Clothing, Jet, just so that you start familiarizing yourself with who you've got to talk about. The South African Customer Satisfaction Index, showing which clothing stores have the highest customer satisfaction ratings. The index ranks Ackermans, Edgar's, Jet, Mr. Price, Pep Stores, Truworths, and Woolworths, based on highly scientific insights. Pep Stores leads the clothing store rankings with a 79.8 on overall customer satisfaction, closely followed by Truworths, then Ackermans, then Woolworths, and Jet. Okay, so you're going to see, I'm sure your teachers are going to be giving you some case studies where they talk about TFG. What does TFG stand for? Well, it stands for the Foschini Group. So the Foschini Group, who do they have in their stable? They've got At Home, American Swiss, Charles and Keith. Oh, I can't read some of this, but small. Due South, Markham, Foschini, Soda, Stearns, Jet, Sports Scene, etc., etc. So that is who they've got in their stable. The Foschini Group bought Jet for 480 million rand in 2020. Now it has brought back Jet home and has 10 standalone stores. Okay, Edgar's. Edgar's is a very interesting little story, this one. So Edgar's nearly did not make it. Edgar's nearly went completely out of business. So let's quickly go through some of the history of Edgar's. The Edgar's Group started in 1929. It had a 6 months to pay an account, account card. So if you bought clothing, you had 6 months to pay it back. Once the largest clothing retail in the country. The subprime lending crisis happened in 2008, which suppressed retail sales and left the group struggling to service a high interest burden. So the group was lending money that they didn't have. They were overgeared as a company. Okay. So what does overgeared mean? I've just written it there. An overgeared company is one which has borrowed a lot but cannot repay the debt. So in 2020, Goldman Sachs Group and hedge fund Apollo Global Asset Management are among secured creditors with claims of 3.73 billion rand against Edcon Holdings. So Edcon owed billions. The overgeared group did not have the time to invest in stores, merchandise, people, and systems, which ultimately reduced its relevance to a rapidly changing consumer demand. So, they had two restructures. They had recapitalizations. People bought them over and kind of would, overgear them, and it just lots of management, lots of strategy changes. COVID hit. They then had to go into business rescue. The challenge then became how to sell off the businesses and assets to maximize value and save as many jobs as possible. What happened? Present day, well, 10,000 jobs were saved. The Edgar's chain was sold to retailability as a growing concern with 125 viable and profitable stores. And the Jet chain was sold to TFG, that Foschini Group, with 430 viable and profitable stores. This ensured the sustainability of these two iconic household brands. So what was the biggest issues with Edgar's? I remember shopping at Edgar's, and Edgar's used to be very big and very zhuzhy to shop in, and they just became disjointed as a company. You really, when you walked in, there were so many international brands that was very expensive as well, that it just became very confusing. So adding international brands into the Edgar's own brand mix was a mistake that led to partial loss of control of the Edgar's value. Customer loyalty. People moved on. I can honestly say I had a Edgar's card, and I used to buy my children's clothing at Edgar's, which used to cost $1 gazillion. And I haven't shopped at Edgar's probably for the last 10, 12 years, I would say. So customer loyalty, people moved on. Staff, very unfriendly staff. Customer service was shocking. When you walked in, you really didn't get any help. And I can think of some retail stores that I can, name and shame, but you would walk in and there was just no one to help you with anything. And then brand consistency. They were quite disjointed with the brand. So retailability bought them over. Who's the CEO? Norman Dresselman. Business Day reported that Edgar's had been struggling with large stores, high costs, and limited credit book for years, and has undergone 2 failed internal rescue attempts in 2017 and 2019. When the pandemic hit in 2020, Edgar's became one of the first major casualties. Edcon, which previously owned Jet, Edgar's, and CNA, went into business rescue in 2020. Guys, CNA used to be huge. CNA used to be bigger than P&A. And where is CNA now? I think I've seen one store. So after multiple attempts to restructure the company, which never recovered after Bain Capital borrowed 25 billion rand in foreign debt to delist it in 2007. So basically, you have retailability that has bought it over. They bought a whole lot of stores. Then they bought Edgar's and Legit. They then bought Legit, and Jet went through to that Foschini Group, and Edgar's was saved. Okay, so what are they going to do? They're going to reposition Edgar's as a mass market brand, catering to fashion and beauty products. They became too niche. They became too specialized and too international. Consumers want choice, they want choice in terms of where they're going to shop. Some people don't want to shop in a store, they want to shop online. So retailability strategy, when they bought, this is what they've done, and this is their strategy for Edgar's. They've said there's a combination of factors helped us get back on the right track, including hitting the culture hard. So what do they mean by that? Building their brand, getting Edgar's back, and understanding South African culture and what the South African consumer actually wants. Putting value into the product through deflation, so bringing costs down, bringing the pricing down. I mean, look at Shein. You can't compete with Shein, Increasing our investment in private labels, so having Edgar's brands come up and start building that, making ourselves more fashionable. You are a fashion brand. Opening up the stores, opening them up, physically opening up stores and also opening them up from a shopping point of view, and improving visibility within stores and when you're driving past an Edgar's. The biggest strategy that they're working on at the moment is looking at e-commerce as a key platform for Edgar's future success. They've also done some other things. Retailability's distribution center process. They have automated a lot of the processes. So things that had been very time consuming, they've automated it. A common warehouse challenge can be the costs associated with multiple and duplicate touch points of goods. And they've considered efficiencies through automation of that. they've introduced an automatic scan and receive system. That's improved the efficiency of goods receiving. So when you're getting your products, your clothing in, they have really streamlined that entire process. There is a really nice YouTube clip on Edgar's, and it's got, the CEO having a chat about why they bought it and what their strategy is going forward. You can have a look at that. It's if you Google retailability buys parts of Edgar's. Let's have a look at Mr. Price. Okay, so Mr. Price, these are just some headlines that I've pulled. Mr. Price Kids, retail giants, eyes market share gains from standalone children's stores. It's got these standalone children's stores that are competing with Ackermans. And generally, if I've got to compare, Mr. Price Baby has got really cute, lovely things, and the quality is not too shabby. Really, the quality is a nice quality, and they've got lovely, lovely, lovely options for customers. There's a conservative approach that Mr. Price has taken to load shedding. I don't know if you have been in a Mr. Price when there's load shedding, but they actually closed the doors, and they've lost. Disruptions have cost R1 billion in revenue. They really need to change that. I think they realize that their conservative approach to load shedding has bit them in the bum. So they are having to gear up for that. Where everybody else is up and running. Hey, I've been there, Mr. Price. They closed the store. So they are needing to sort that out. And at the end of September, backup power was only available at 37% of stores in its core business. Mr. Price, you've lost R1 billion. You've got to come up. Load shedding ain't going anywhere. We're in it. Non-payments of 350,000 grants. Load shedding hits Mr. Price sales growth. So, where people are not getting their 350 Rand grants during COVID, people didn't have money to buy things, buy clothes. Mr. Price to buy a majority of Studio 88 in a 3.3 billion Rand deal. Mr. Price said to ramp up locally manufactured products to 100 million units. Fantastic. Mr. Price slashes CEO's pay, saying it is not meeting its financial objectives. In its 2023 annual report released on Friday, Blair's total remuneration in the year was 10.6 million Rand compared to 56.5 million he was paid in 2022. He got paid 56.5 million for the year. Chief Financial Officer, SFO, Mark Sturton, total remuneration in the year also dropped from 12.5 million to 6.7 million Rand. Interesting what these CEOs are being paid. And you must know that the markup on clothing is huge. Huge. They make good money off this. So, what do you need to do from a fashion point of view? You've got to predict and interpret latest trends in fashion, apparel, footwear, and homeware. Design, develop, and source own branded exclusive fashion merchandise. Collaborate with third-party brands on trends. Consistently update established brands and create new and enticing brands and range extensions. This is going to be part of your fashion strategy. These are the things you have to do all the time. So, there are two games in town at the moment when it comes to South Africa's clothing retailers, and that is the ability to trade during load shedding and the appetite to lend money. And those businesses that can do both are faring far better. So, possibly a strategy that you can bring into whichever retail you're going to be chatting about. Pep, Ackermans, Cotton On. There's just some brands that familiarize yourself with. Okay, so Mr. Price Group Unlimited, they specialize in retail, fashion, and clothing. The group says they've got 3 core values: passion, value, and partnership. The business model of Mr. Price is synonymous with offering merchandise at excellent value. For them, being a value retailer means lower markups and selling higher volumes. That is their key strategy, and offering everyday low prices. So their divisions, they've got Milady's, Yuppie Chef, Sheet Street, they've got Studio 88, and then all the Mr. Prices. Mr. Price Sport, Mr. Price Home, la la la. Okay, so Just some other information for you. You can go onto their websites and have a look. Truworths. Truworths, formerly known as Alliance Trading Company. The mind, body, and soul of Truworths lay in their employees, regardless of the department. Truworths forms part of Truworths International, an investment holding company listed on the JSE, whose companies are engaged in the retailing of fashion apparel and accessories. The Truworths International Retail Group incorporates Identity, YDE, and Uzi. Okay, right, so what do? They've got 18.5 billion rand of sales. The cost of sales is 8.3 billion rand. And yeah, they are quite up and coming, and they've got quite a good online presence. Okay, that is the retail industry in a nutshell. Obviously, as we go on and we start looking at the various chapters, we're going to have to be bringing in one or two of these examples. I think we need to just keep with mass. I would possibly say let's look at Mr. Price and possibly Woolworths. So we've got different and Truworths, from an up market to mass market. Yeah. Grade 11s and grade 12s, I hope that this current affair has helped you. It certainly has helped me. And I will see you in the next recording where we start with our syllabus.